I think it's very important to know what is it that you want.
Yeah.
I think it's more important is creating the life that you really want.
That's right.
Because if you actually use creating your life instead of saying balance, there is no sacrifice.
Yes.
Because it's actually enjoying the moments, you know,
Right.
because you know you're working towards that.
Yeah.
So I think that removes the whole sacrifice, removes the balance, because you know that you have your priorities in line with what you want to achieve. So I think to me, it's creating the life that you want.
I think that's big. I was actually like, we just had a seminar this past Tuesday, and one of the things that I talked about was generational wealth, building generational wealth and stuff like that. But before it's building generational wealth or building a business or whatever it is that you want to do, you got to create the habits in order to do so.
Yes.
Right? If you don't have the right habits, then you're not going to, like, for example, I'll use an example, like everyone wants to give back to charity or give back to a church. Well, if you're not doing it when you're making $50,000 a year, you're probably not going to do it when you're making $1 million, $5 million,
No.
right? So you got to create those habits, and the same thing with generational wealth, right? Same thing with building a business. You have to create those habits early on so that you could now carry those habits forward and continue to do that.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's all about the mind, and creating those habits starts with the mindset,
Yes.
right? Same thing with a business. Like a lot of people think that, oh man, a CPA costs too much, or a tax guy, their fees are too high. Well, you guys don't understand how much they're actually going to save you on taxes.
Right.
Would you rather pay fees or would you rather pay taxes? It's up to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
No.
or doing it correctly. There's this one quote by Gary Vee. He says that money doesn't make you better. It just amplifies more who you are.
Yes.
Mm.
So if you're, you could be making like 20,000, let's say $20,000 a year, and you're already giving back to the community. Imagine when you have money, how much more you're going to give back. But if you're super stingy, and disrespectful with making that much money, imagine when you make $200,000 a
Yep.
year. So I thought that was very same as well. Just building up those small habits of, if you're going to do something now, you start now. Even if you're not there yet, it's kind of like leading up to the small wins lead to big wins.
And that's one of the things, bro, that I really actually like picked up when we first started We connected almost about a year ago, right?
Yes.
We've already kind of done some business together and stuff like that. But one of the things I like about Leo is that you go into his office, like he's very organized. And that's one of the things, like I've been into people's tax office before, and it's like they have stuff all over the place. Here's a nugget for you guys, like write this down, like go back, listen to it. Like if your tax guy or your tax gal is not organized, be like a little nervous.
That's a good tip.
Yeah. Like I look at those things. First thing I noticed, I was like, dang, everything is nice and tight.
Yeah.
Like he's very like, he loves the color red. Shout out to Leo. He loves the color red. Like a lot of these things, like, but see, to me, it's like if he's organized outside, his thoughts, his business, like everything, his habits are very organized. He's very routine. He's always on time. Like those are little things that you want to pick up, especially from your tax guy. You do not want to be in tax problems. So yeah, habits are huge, man.
Yes, they are, man. Very important.
Yeah, that's a good tip. One thing I did want to know, obviously you told me you were from Mexico City.
Yes.
So that's mom and dad were both born there?
Yes, mom and dad were born there. Yep.
Nice.
Mexico.
How was it obviously growing up then with Mexican parents, Latino parents that speak Spanish predominantly?
Well, my parents brought me to LA when I was 6 months old, and I was raised here, and my parents always, worked hard. My dad had 2 jobs, and even when I was 4 years old, my dad used to sell to swap me. From used clothes to picture frames to
and
furniture.
get your hands on.
So I've always been around business since I was little, so for me, obviously being raised by my parents, just like anything, there was always limitations, but, they did the best that they could, so for me, I always had that work ethic since I was little to be able to do that, because obviously I had to work for what I wanted, but yeah, I mean, overall, our parents do the best that they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad I could see. Yeah, bro. I mean, they're both. I can testify the same. Both my parents. They were. My mom was born in Durango, Mexico. Cool. My dad was born here in LA, but basically grew up over there.
Yeah.
So like having that growing up, like it's always interesting to see. Like my mom predominantly Spanish speaking, so it's always having that barrier. But they do the best they can, and one thing that's not short is hard work.
No.
Right, and that's something Pablo says is like. For our people, hard work is not the problem. It's really just education, financial literacy, and putting themselves in the best position possible. Because imagine if we implement hard work, and then now with the financial tool set that we could teach to these people, imagine what we could do.
And our platform, man, just so we could talk a little bit about this, like we're not just for the Latino community, we're for everybody, but we want to really educate the Latino community, right? So we want to work with Latino entrepreneurs and business owners and really educate. I feel like our people, it's time for our people to really like get educated, right? Get educated. Don't just, a lot of times we have problems, you know, our community has problems trusting, like, I'll just put my money under the mattress. No, like, there's different ways that you could do it, right? I'll just go to the H&R Block down the street instead of hiring a professional. It's like, well, yeah, they're professionals, but why not build a relationship with somebody that could actually give you nuggets, right? On how to build your business, how to save on taxes, how to reinvest that money, how to grow it, how to protect it, right? And I think ahora es el tiempo, like now's the time to be, you know, proactive in those movements, right? Yes. And we want to educate our communities. So, I mean, that's why, obviously, you know, educate and elevate. Like, of course, we're going to elevate your mindsets. We're going to elevate your thoughts and stuff like that and your habits. But we want to give you guys education, right?
Yeah. Well, one question I have then, since we're on the topic, is, Vallejo, for your experience, what have you seen, and maybe one thing that at least the community is lacking in terms of knowledge, or when tax season comes up, something that people always, you know, you're like, this is kind of what we need more education on, or is there something at least that stands out?
You know what, I think it comes to analyzing, because that's something that I do very well, and actually looking at their habits. And that comes into personal habits and even their business habits. And that comes down to bank accounts. Because when I do their accounting, I'm able to see everything, right? And sometimes I always get this all the time. I don't know where the money went, you know? Yet that's like, really? Like, you don't know where the money went, right? It's there, you know? And then when I start breaking it down and you have all these expenses, that's where it went, you know? So it's like sometimes, and it even happens to me, you know, we work and money's coming in, but then we don't realize, you know, how much we spent. You know, and I think what's important is to actually have a budget, because you know, it's very important to know what is it that you're working for, and budgeting and making sure you're making adjustments. I think evaluating not only your budget but even yourself, you know, to be able to make sure, like, hey, you know what, this past year we spent $3,000 on, you know, on food or whatever the case may be. It's like, I think it's important to do that, because if you can't measure that, well, then how can you continue moving forward?
So one thing I said, I'll defend the person that you're speaking about. Then, just to put an opposition, I would say, well, when you're constantly working, you have a family to take care of, and let's say maybe a family is, let's say, like, not everybody has the same goal as in we're gonna, you know, build to something. Is there some financial maybe tips that are like that individual could do, that's like working all the time, that gets home late, has like five kids, you know, I'll call me Bobby. It's like, oh, man, maybe I don't have time to sit down and do my numbers. Is there maybe something that we could do? I know for debt, there's like debt snowball, right? That's a good little tip.
Good strategy. Yeah, we could talk about that for sure at some point. But
I think, you know, it depends, because if we're talking about entrepreneurs, I think, you know, depreciation is something that's very important. I think what's important, where it can really help you out a lot, is to actually have your accounting done before the fiscal year, you know, November, December.
Start early.
So like that, we can be able to review that and be able to say, okay, you know, if at the end of the day, your tax liability might be $40,000, you know, what can we do? Can you buy more material? Can you invest in marketing for the following year? You pay for it that year, but you're going to use it for next year, you know, or go purchase a vehicle, and really break down those numbers, because that ends up saving you a lot.
You did that for my client, Karen. She ended up buying a car.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
She ended up buying a car.
Cool.
And that's because of your advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back to preparing before the year ends.
Yes.
And that's, I guess, tax season really doesn't start in February. It really starts in December.
100%. I always like to say, like, prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Yes.